What's really going on in the sky in 2026? Why are UFOs showing up so often, right out in the open, in front of millions of people? In Guatemala, a long glowing object sweeps across the sky and a mothership appears. In Alaska, a triangular craft makes the military scramble, then disappears. Out in the desert, an orb shoots straight up. At the Grand Canyon, a glowing object flies close along the cliff. Near Area 51, a secret team recovers something at night. New York catches an orb changing colors. Florida sees a glowing saucer up close. Italy has 3 orbs just hovering still. Off the beach, a huge object hangs right over the water. Are you noticing these signs? If you believe this is a warning, please leave a prayer in the comments as a way to show your faith in God. Amen. And now, so you don't have to wait long, we're going to get started right away with 1. Aliens in Guatemala. A strange object shot through the sky near the Gulf of Guatemala, slicing across the clouds, then speeding up like an arrow straight into the darkness. Folks in Villanueva, just outside Guatemala City, caught a steady, long-lasting light on video, no flashing like a regular plane. At the same time, the optics on an Apache helicopter picked up weird interference. The picture shook hard, then lost lock on the target. This same area had reports before about a mothership with 6 white lights lined up straight, hovering for several minutes before vanishing. This time, the new object stayed around 1,000 feet high, flying in a smooth, straight line, no wings, no sound. Radar within 5 miles showed intermittent jamming, then the target just disappeared from the screen like it was never there, leaving us with a mystery that's hard to explain. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. When strange lights appear overhead and people below watch in confusion, that warning feels clearer than ever." This wasn't just a dot in the sky. It reached right into the fears of folks on the ground. A lot of people quickly say it's a drone or some military test gear, but a drone can't glide that smoothly at 1,000 feet without making noise, and it sure wouldn't mess with an Apache's systems from far away. Joel 2:30 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and billows of smoke." When unknown objects show up more and more, those words don't feel like just symbols anymore. Witnesses from different angles all saw the same motion, the same light, and the same sudden end. No wreckage, no distress signal, just silence after it was gone. If this was just a mix-up, why did it leave such clear electronic traces? And why do we keep seeing more events like this? Guatemala might just be the starting point. An object appears, causes interference, then pulls back, like it's testing how the world reacts before moving on. And if it comes back, not just passing through the sky, but announcing something bigger, what exactly will we have to face next time? 2. Silence from the military in Alaska. A strange object was hovering offshore near Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. It forced fighter jets to scramble, but then everything went into a strange silence. And you're watching an event that even the military won't explain openly. Radar picked up the target about 10 miles from shore, just sitting still in the cold Arctic wind. No identification signal, no response to radio calls. Witnesses described a triangular craft, no wings, no obvious engines, hanging at 40,000 feet for several minutes. Airborne sensors caught intermittent jamming, data flickering, then gone completely as the F-22 got close. No explosion, no detailed official statement, just a short bit of info, and then it was closed, leaving a big dark space we have to think about. Matthew 24-29 says, "Right after those terrible days, the sun will go dark, the moon won't give light anymore, stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken." When an object with no known origin makes modern defense systems react and then go quiet, it's not just a technical glitch. It feels like a warning about the shaking of powers up high. Some folks say it was just a balloon, but a balloon can't hold steady at 40,000 feet against strong Alaska winds. It sure can't jam military sensors and then leave the area without any wreckage like the shootdowns back in 2023. Luke 21:26 says, "People will be terrified, waiting for what's coming on the earth." That fear doesn't need an official announcement. It shows up in the caution and the information gap after the event. This area has a history of quiet objects spotted in the empty skies. But this time, it's different because of the military response and the lack of openness afterward. A craft shows up, challenges the surveillance system, then leaves without anyone clearly saying what happened. When the strongest power on Earth faces something it can't control, the warning isn't just about technology, it's about human confidence too. If Alaska was just a test, what happens when the next sightings don't stay hovering offshore, but come closer to populated areas? And if the powers of the heavens are really being shaken like the Bible warns, how many more silences like this will we see before the full truth comes out? 3. Rapid ascent in desert. Zooming straight up in the desert. A huge round metal object suddenly drops down onto the empty land, then shoots straight up into the sky in just a few seconds, leaving the sand completely untouched, like no thrust ever hit it. The whole thing was caught near a remote base area about 2 miles away, and the 4K drone footage shows a perfectly straight, sharp, no-wobble path upward. Before it took off, that round shape was just hovering low and steady, no wings, no smoke, no engine roar. The telemetry data shared shows it hit around 500 feet per second, smooth, as if it was programmed that way. You watch it and realize there's no shaking, no swirling dust cloud like you'd get from a regular jet engine. This stretch of desert has had lots of reports before about small glowing orbs zipping across the Arizona sky, changing direction fast, then vanishing from sight. This time, instead of flying sideways, the metal thing chose to land, pause, then blast straight up, like it was testing the limit between ground and sky. No aviation warnings, no public military statement, just the video and data that force you to face something you've never seen before. Joel 2:33:1 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens above, and signs on the earth below, blood, fire, and pillars of smoke. The sun will be turned to darkness, the moon to blood." Movements that break normal rules don't always need fire or smoke to be a sign. Sometimes, the total silence during that fast climb is what makes the Bible verse feel so real and close. Some folks say it's just a big drone or test equipment, but the estimated size and that 500 feet per second acceleration are way beyond common civilian stuff. Plus, it landed and balanced perfectly without any trouble. Those peanut-shaped crafts mentioned in other reports usually move sideways. They don't do this exact, clean vertical rise and drop. When aerodynamics get challenged like this, we have to rethink what we believe is possible. If this was a show of power, who's it meant for, and what's the point? Something lands, waits, then rockets straight up without a trace, like it's proving the line between sky and ground can be crossed anytime. And if these wonders in the heavens are just starting to show up more clearly, where will the next fast climb happen? And how much longer will we just stand and watch before we really understand what it means? 4. Grand UFO in Arizona. Lights up right in the canyon. A bright, white shape shot across the Grand Canyon cliffs, quiet but impossible to ignore. A tourist's camera shook as it glided past the red rock layers about 500 feet up. You have to wonder, why would something show up in this ancient place that doesn't match any known flight? The Grand Canyon has long been called a hotspot for strange sightings. Plenty of videos on YouTube and Reddit show glowing dots moving straight along the cliffs. No wobble, no turns. This time, the white glowing object flew parallel to the rim, sharp and clear in 4K footage, not blurry like sunlight reflecting off anything. Revelation 6:12 says, "And I beheld, when the Lamb opened the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. When the sky and earth move together in the same scene, the Bible isn't talking about random stuff. It's describing signs that break the normal order. That object didn't blink like a regular drone, made no engine noise, left no smoke trail. It held a steady height, flew straight for several seconds, then sped up and vanished behind a rocky point. Some skeptics say it was just a light effect, but light doesn't hold a fixed path on its own in desert wind. Joel 2:33-1 reads, "And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire, and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood." When strange signs appear together from desert to canyon, the Bible doesn't stay on the sidelines. It steps in like the explanation, saying that power from above can shake even the strongest symbols of earth. The Hopi legends talk about doors between worlds hidden in the rocks. But this wasn't just an old story passed down. This is recorded video, controlled movement, perfect path. If it's not human technology, then who's behind it? The Bible often speaks of stars falling and powers in the heavens being shaken. When a glowing object drifts through the Grand Canyon like a signal being sent, faith stops being a vague option and becomes the answer. Could the canyon be hiding something much bigger, and we're only seeing the beginning of what's about to break wide open? 5. Desert Tracker in Nevada. Right in the middle of the desert night, a bright white light pops up behind an SUV speeding down a Nevada highway, just 19 miles from Area 51. It doesn't flash, it doesn't drift, it doesn't fall back. It matches the car's speed perfectly, like a glowing shadow. This whole area sits right next to restricted airspace, where those plain white Janet flights take off and land every day. But this thing doesn't look like any regular aircraft. No familiar shape, no red and green flashing lights, no jet engine roar. According to reports spreading on Facebook and Daily Mail, plenty of drivers have caught these steady lights, keeping perfect distance, flying parallel for several minutes. Acts 2:19 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood, fire, and thick smoke." When a light shows up in the sky, right beside America's most secret spot, the Bible doesn't call it random chance. It calls it a sign. The dashcam shows the object holding steady height above the desert floor, not wobbling even in strong night wind. The car speeds up to 80 miles per hour. The light speeds up too, still sitting a few hundred feet back and just off to the right. Then the driver eases off the gas, and the light slows right along with it, almost like it's watching. If you were behind the wheel, wouldn't you feel like something was tracking you? Some folks say it's a military drone, but civilian drones aren't allowed that close to restricted zones, and no drone keeps that smooth a path without any shake at high speed. Compared to the Janet flights that follow clear routes, this thing doesn't show up on any public radar. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and plagues in many places, and terrifying things, and great signs from heaven." Signs from heaven aren't just quick flashes. They're repeating signals, showing up near centers of power, as a reminder that no secret escapes the eyes of the Most High. Finally, the bright spot suddenly shoots forward, climbs fast, and vanishes into the dark in just a few seconds. No sonic boom, no smoke trail, no official explanation. It appears, follows, then leaves. If this isn't human technology, then who's watching? What's Area 51 really hiding? And why do these lights pick out lone cars in the middle of the desert? Could it be that before the final times begin, humanity is being watched more closely than ever? 6. Hidden retrieval near Area 51. A disc-shaped object lands in the Nevada desert. Then a team in black suits moves in fast and hauls it away in just a few minutes. The clip cuts off suddenly, right when the truck door slams shut. If you watch all the way to the last second, do you really believe this is just a hoax? The area, not far from Area 51, has long been tied to rumors about secret recovery operations. YouTube and the NY Post have mentioned reports of fallen objects, military lockdowns, and roads blocked off at night. This time, the footage shows a round structure sitting still on the sand, smooth surface, no markings, no smoke, no fire. Isaiah 13:10 says, "For the stars of heaven and their constellations will not give their light. The sun will be dark when it rises, and the moon will not give its light." When the lights in the sky go dark and whatever falls to earth gets hidden right away, those Bible words sound like a serious warning. Something is happening that's beyond human control. The video shows 4 people in dark clothing stepping out of 2 SUVs with no license plates. They don't run. They don't panic. They work like it's routine. Approach, check it out, lift the round object with some equipment, and load it into the truck. No fumbling, no arguing. Everything goes smooth, like they've practiced it many times. Compared to Roswell in 1947, where debris was first called a weather balloon, then later a dummy test story, this time there's no official explanation released. People bring up Bob Lazar's claims about secret research programs again, but the government stays quiet. Revelation 12:1 says, "A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars." The Bible talks about signs in the sky before big changes come. When those signs hit the ground and get rushed away, is humanity trying to cover up what was foretold? Some folks say this is just a clickbait stunt, but the smooth teamwork, the specialized gear, and the way they sealed off the area point to a professional operation. It doesn't look like some amateurs staging a scene in the desert. It feels like a familiar process that's been done before. If these recoveries are real, where are they taking the objects? What underground lab is studying them? And if these are signs of the end times, are we ready to face the truth when all the secrets finally come out? 7. Orb in New York. Gone in a flash. A glowing orb shot right across the live shot over the Hudson River, then changed color right in midair, white to green, in less than a second. No sound, no trace left behind. Is this just video interference? Or is something moving in close to the most crowded city in America? Fox 5 NY and the NY Post have reported sightings before, glowing objects flying near helicopters, gliding along the Manhattan skyline, then making sharp turns like they're being controlled. This time, the camera pointing out over the Hudson caught it perfectly. A small glowing orb appears on the left side of the screen, speeds across at 200-300 feet high, curves gently, and disappears behind the buildings. Did you catch that turn? Or am I the only one who sees a path that looks intentional? Luke 21:25-26 says, "And there will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on the earth nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will faint from terror, waiting for what is coming on the world." When a sign shows up right over the water in this city, it's like a warning ringing out in the middle of all the noise. A lot of experts are quick to call it a drone or some light reflection, but commercial drones can't suddenly speed up and change their glow color like that without making noise. A light reflection can't lift off the water, rush right up to the camera, then bend its path just a few dozen feet away. Viewers flooded the station with calls, but the explanations are still just guesses. Matthew 16:3 says, "In the morning you say, 'Today it will storm, because the sky is red and overcast.'" You can read the sky, but you can't read the signs of the times. People can read the weather forecast, but they miss the signals passing right in front of them. When the color changes in midair, it might be a reminder to wake up. The Hudson has seen strange lights for decades, but rarely this clear and this close. The orb came right toward the camera, almost like it wanted to leave a mark before slipping away. No crash, no fall, no chase. Just one appearance, enough to shake things up. If this is one of those signs in the heavens, right in the middle of the world's financial center, who's the message for? Will this city see it again? Or is this just the beginning of bigger things coming closer to the Hudson shore? 8. Shocking moment in Florida. Right up in the clouds! A glowing green disk suddenly showed up right next to a regular passenger plane over Tampa, then just hovered there for a few heart-stopping seconds. It happened close to MacDill Air Force Base, and folks pretty much held their breath when the video started spreading all over social media. From clips going around on Instagram and YLLD941, you can clearly see this flat, round shape right outside the window at cruising altitude, around 30 to 35,000 feet. It stayed steady right beside the plane, giving off a smooth green light that didn't flash like regular aircraft lights. Then, in a split second, it shot off and vanished so fast your eyes could barely keep up. Inside the cabin, there was no crash, no shaking, just a long, quiet moment after the scared whispers started. Some passengers said they still remember their heart pounding hard when they looked out the window, like the sky had just shown something way beyond normal. The shape wasn't blurry or distorted. It looked sharp and solid for those few short seconds. Joel 2:30 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and pillars of smoke." When a glowing sign appears in the busy skies over Florida, that old warning echoes like it's coming from long ago, not to scare people, but to wake up folks who've been asleep to it. A lot of people quickly say it's just an optical illusion or some marketing stunt. But those fake campaigns usually get caught with obvious setup signs, while here, you've got independent witnesses, different camera angles, and real reactions inside the plane. No heads up, no fancy editing, just one moment that made everyone look up at the sky. Acts 2:19 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood, fire, and thick smoke." When that green light zipped by at tens of thousands of feet, it felt like a reminder that strange things aren't just from the past. Maybe it's a nudge that the time of decision is closer than we think. Even if someone tries to explain it as test tech or some weather effect, the sudden speed up and the way it held position next to a commercial jet still raises big questions. No warning from the cockpit, no fighter jets chasing it, just there, then gone, like a message delivered. Those passengers that day probably still think about it every time they look up at the Florida sky. If it was a sign up there in the air, what's it calling for in each of our hearts? And how many more moments like that might Tampa's sky open up, testing our faith and waking it up at the same time? 9. Orbs over the Italian mountain in Montreal, Palermo. 3 identical bright lights suddenly hung silently over the Montreal mountain in Palermo, just hovering there like they were waiting for a signal. The video spread fast on TikTok and YouTube, and you can feel the unease creeping into every comment below. No one heard any engine noise. No one saw any exhaust trail. Just 3 perfectly matched glowing orbs keeping even spacing across the old Italian sky. Montreal isn't some remote place. It's known for its deep religious history and centuries-old churches. But this time, the sky right above the mountain stole the show. Those 3 lights didn't blink like airplanes or drift like hot air balloons. They stayed locked in place for several minutes, as if gathering in midair before suddenly speeding off together and vanishing in the blink of an eye. No swaying from the wind, no shape change when you zoom in. The people who filmed it swear the orbs were completely still, then all left at once, with speed way beyond any regular drone. Compared to those triangle light reports near train tracks in Italy before, this one looks cleaner and more deliberate, like a planned formation. Revelation 6:12-1-3 says, "And I beheld, when he had opened the 6th seal, and, lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind." When those 3 lights shot away from Montreal together, the picture of stars falling from heaven stopped being some far-off symbol and felt very real to the people watching. A lot of folks try to explain it away as just drones flying in formation. But drones need a controller signal, they need position lights, and they rarely hover perfectly still, then blast off suddenly without any sound. No matching commercial flight reports, no public military test announcements. That silence makes the whole thing harder to ignore. Revelation 6 doesn't just talk about disasters, it also points to signs in the sky as clues for where we are in history. When lights show up in groups, come together, then split apart, it feels like a picture of gathering before something big. And it's no accident that these kinds of signs keep showing up more and more across different continents. Those 3 bright points didn't crash to the ground, but the way they disappeared makes people think of some unseen command just given. If that's a reminder coming from above, then Monreal is just one of many stages being picked. What are those Italian mountains hiding? And where are those lights waiting for the next signal to come back? 10. Beach encounter. A huge object was hovering right above the water, blocking out the whole sky over a beach on the American coast, just hanging there like it was watching. That short clip left people stunned, and you could almost feel the sea breeze slow down with that dark shadow right overhead. No engine noise, no propellers, just a massive structure standing out against the pale gray sky. Reports spreading on TikTok and Fox News say the thing appeared very low, way bigger than any regular helicopter, several times larger. The bands of light on its surface were neatly arranged, pulsing smoothly, like some kind of system in operation. It drifted slowly along the shoreline, no shaking, no wobbling. Then the video cut off suddenly, before anyone could figure out what was happening. Some witnesses swear they saw the water below swirl gently, as if an invisible force was pulling at the ocean. The Enigma database has recorded tens of thousands of similar sightings along coastlines, so this isn't just one isolated story anymore. The sea is already deep and mysterious. Now it becomes the backdrop for something beyond imagination. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great signs from heaven." When a huge structure hangs over the sea, those words, great signs, stop being just a figure of speech. They turn into something real and right in front of you, right there amid the sound of waves and the confused looks on people's faces that day. A lot of folks say it was probably just a military test plane or some light effect, but the size was enormous, the movement way too slow, and the light patterns too perfectly synced for that explanation to hold up. Compared to earlier sightings at Laguna Beach, this one was much clearer and much closer to the water, almost like it wanted to be seen. Isaiah 13:10 says, "The stars of heaven and their constellations will not give their light. The sun will be dark at its rising, and the moon will not shed its light." When the sky over the beach gets covered by a giant dark mass, that warning rings out like a bell, reminding us the normal order of things can be turned upside down any moment. In the Bible, the sea is often tied to turmoil and upheaval, and seeing something hovering above the water makes people think of the end times that were foretold. If the ocean is hiding more secrets than we ever realized, this moment might be a call to turn back to faith before everything gets out of hand. That beach will fill up with people again someday. The waves will keep rolling in like always, but the memory of that giant shadow won't fade easily. Was it just a passing oddity, or the final signal before the warnings turn into reality? Even in that unease, there's still hope. When the signs appear, people still have the chance to choose faith and get ready for what's coming. Here are 10 phenomena that have passed right before our eyes, like 10 bells ringing one after another across an unsettled sky. From Guatemala to Alaska, the Nevada desert to the Grand Canyon, from the Hudson River to Monreal, and beaches along the American coast, each sighting doesn't stand alone. They connect into a thick chain of signs: lights hovering, formations gathering, sudden acceleration, quick retreats that stay hidden, appearances over the ocean, and right in crowded cities. All of it paints one bigger picture of a very special moment in history. When we place these events side by side with Bible verses, we can't ignore how closely they match, and the match is getting clearer. Luke 21:28 says, "When these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near." If signs in the sky are truly increasing in 2026, the call isn't to panic, it's to wake up. This isn't just a story about UFOs. It's a story about the moment people have to face the biggest question: where do I stand in God's plan? The pictures and videos we've captured can scare a lot of folks, but the Bible always walks hand in hand with both warning and hope. When the sky shakes with strange things, that's exactly when the promise of redemption rings out louder than ever. If this really is the closing phase of an era, then repentance isn't some distant idea anymore. It's an urgent step to take right now. Even in the middle of all this confusion, there's still a clear path forward. Watch the sky with clear, steady eyes, but also look inside your own heart. Take time to pray, ask for forgiveness, and get your spirit ready for whatever might come. When these signs show up, they're not just something to talk about, they're an invitation to change. If what you've just seen and heard has you thinking, leave a prayer in the comments or share what it's stirring in you. Faith grows when we speak it out together. And if you feel these messages need to reach more people, please give a like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any important reminders in this special time. Thank you for staying with me to the end. May the Lord keep you and your family safe and steady through every shakeup. No matter how many more signs appear in the sky, hope is still there for anyone who lifts their head and trusts. Amen.
Plague of locusts in Madagascar. Half of the money is...
Check this out during a rainstorm here. What the fuck is that?
What is the sky trying to warn us about? In just a short time, Texas suddenly lit up with purple light in the middle of the night. Giant clouds piled up like a wall about to crash down. A bright beam shot straight up as if tearing the sky open, and a long streak of clouds sliced across the heavens like a crack right in front of thousands of people. In other places, swirling clouds gripped strange light. Locusts swarmed over fields. An eclipse darkened the middle of the day. Columns of insects stood straight up on the river surface. A loud boom echoed down from above, and a glowing object hung in the air before disappearing over Medina. Do you think all this is just coincidence? Or is it a chain of signs, one after another? If what's happening isn't simply natural events, then what's coming closer? Before we dive into each event, please leave a prayer in the comments, a simple word to God saying you still trust in Him. Amen. Now, so you don't have to wait long, let's jump right in with 1. Strange purple light covers the Texas sky. The Texas sky just did something nobody was ready to see. In the middle of the night, a purple glow suddenly burst out, covering Dallas and nearby areas. It painted the whole horizon in a color so strange it was hard to believe. We just stood there stunned, watching it spread mile after mile. No thunder, no weather warnings, no storm on the radar before it, just this purple shade pouring down like someone flipped a switch way up high. The purple didn't fade. It got deeper. It reflected off rooftops, streets, and windows. A lot of folks opened their doors, stepped out, then hurried back inside with their hearts pounding from how weird it felt. Some people filmed it from their balconies, others went live, and in just a few minutes, all kinds of different angles showed the same thing stretching over more than 10 miles. Dallas is used to stadium lights mixing with low clouds, but this time there was no game, no spotlights shooting up. Joel 2:30 says, "And I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and pillars of smoke." When that verse popped up again on a lot of believers' screens, some of them said they weren't surprised at all. Others got scared, thinking it was a bad sign, something out of control. The skeptics broke down every frame, saying it was just LED lights from SMU's stadium bouncing off thick clouds or some rare atmospheric effect. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." That Bible verse doesn't give a final answer, but it clearly hints that the sky can sometimes send a signal. And when that purple light covered Texas, you could see the split right away. Scared people shut their doors and prayed. Worried folks called family. Doubters checked weather data, while believers stayed calm, like they'd read about this before. So far, no official explanation has calmed everyone down. Videos from different angles prove it really happened. No editing, and the purple lasted long enough for thousands to see it. If this was just a rare natural thing, why did it show up so suddenly and spread so far? And if it wasn't random, what bigger thing might this purple light be the start of? Texas might just be the first stop in a chain of events we haven't fully pictured yet. 2. Layers of dark gray clouds stacked up in a strange way. Dropping down from the horizon, a solid wall of gray clouds suddenly stood straight up, piling layer on layer like a tsunami hanging frozen in the sky. Folks along the coast and even inland looked up and just froze when that huge cloud mass stretched out for miles, towering thousands of feet high, blocking out daylight in just a moment. The whole thing appeared so fast, so massive, it felt like the sky changed shape right in front of our eyes. The cloud layers were rolled up tight, with edges curving down like a wave about to crash on the shore. But instead of rushing forward, they just hung there, heavy and waiting. Wind howled through the trees, the ground went dark, and a lot of people said it felt like standing under a giant, upside-down ocean. You can picture that feeling when the whole horizon turns into a thick gray wall, quiet in a way that's not normal. Joel 2:2 says, "A day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness." End quote. Those short words started popping up again among all the pictures and videos spreading online, as clip after clip from different angles showed the exact same scene. Experts call it an Arcus roll cloud, formed by cold air rushing in, but this one was way bigger than anything seen before in the Gulf of Mexico, and the cloud shape held steady for a long time, which left people wondering. Zephaniah 1:15 says, "That day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of ruin and destruction, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness." Once that Bible verse got shared, reactions split in every direction. Some folks panicked and started packing things up. Others stood outside filming with worry. Some studied satellite data looking for answers, while believers looked up at the sky with a strange calm, like they'd been waiting for this moment a long time. Satellite pictures confirmed the clouds stretched on and moved slowly, with a sharp edge you don't see often. Some meteorologists said a sudden big temperature drop created perfect conditions for this shape to form, but the way it stayed looking like a frozen wave up in the sky is still up for debate. That cloud wall felt both natural and somehow made people think of something much bigger. If this is just a rare weather event, why does it line up so perfectly with those ancient warnings? And if it's a sign, what exactly is that cloud wall telling us is coming closer? When the sky starts building giant boundaries like this, we might be standing at the beginning of a real wave, one that hasn't shown up in anyone's lifetime in this generation. 3. Mysterious beam of light above the building. That light appeared near a tall building, rising up from the ground like something invisible had turned it on. People a few miles away could still see it clearly, the beam cutting right through the clouds, connecting the ground to the sun in an almost perfectly straight line. A lot of folks said it felt strange to stare at it for long, like a gentle pull was drawing their eyes and their mind right to the glowing center. Some people quickly said it was just a sun pillar that thing where sunlight reflects off ice crystals in cold air. But it wasn't cold enough that night, and the light kept its shape way too long. It didn't flicker or break apart like normal pillars do in really cold places. Videos from different angles all showed the same steady beam, not a drone, not a laser, and no visible light source coming from the ground. Acts 2:19 says, "And I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." That purple beam rising right in the middle of a modern city made a lot of people think back to those old words. When a straight shaft of light links earth to sky in broad daylight, the word column stops being just a figure of speech. You can actually see it with your own eyes. When the light reached the sun, a strange illusion formed around the spot where they met, like a big expanding halo, and plenty of people started calling it a heavenly gate. The whole scene felt part sci-fi, part something heavy and hard to explain. A bunch of people just stood there quietly, phones in hand, but couldn't even find words to say. Revelation 11:19 says, "Then God's temple in heaven was opened, and within his temple was seen the ark of his covenant. And there came flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, an earthquake, and a severe hailstorm." When folks brought up that verse, many believers felt whatever was happening up there wasn't just light bending. It was a sign of something opening beyond the physical world. Image analysts ruled out digital fakes because the real-time data and reflections on nearby glass buildings all matched up perfectly. Some experts still stick to the weather explanation, but the questions keep hanging around. Why was that beam so perfectly straight? And why did it feel like a boundary line between two different spaces? If it was just an optical thing, it sure did its job. It made an entire city look up at the same moment. But if it was a door, then what's standing on the other side, waiting for the right time to step through? 4. Texas sky split. The sky over Austin, Texas, got torn open right in the middle of the day. A long black gap appeared, like a huge knife had sliced right through it. The clouds above split apart so clean and sharp it gave you chills, showing a deep, dark void underneath. It wasn't lightning, it wasn't a storm, just a straight crack hanging there above the city. The gap was a few feet wide. It stretched across the cloud layer for miles, splitting the sky into two separate pieces like broken glass. The light around it got swallowed up, making an unnatural dark patch. The contrast was so strong, a lot of folks said it looked like a glitch in the Matrix. Central Texas has seen weird cloud splits from fast weather changes before, but this cut was too straight, too neat, like it was done on purpose. Revelation 6:14 says, "And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. And every mountain and island were moved out of their places." When you see the sky split in two, and the cloud edges roll back on both sides, those words don't feel so far away anymore. That rolled together picture almost jumps out at you, right there in the middle of what seemed like a normal afternoon in Austin. The most common explanation is that it's a cloud getting torn by a plane flying through, something like hole punch clouds. But the videos spreading around on Reddit show no jet noise at the moment the gap appeared. No contrail, no sign of swirling air. The crack stayed in shape way too long. It didn't close up fast like normal cloud holes do. Isaiah 34:4 says, "And all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their host shall fall down, as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree." When the cloud layer pulls apart and the edges shrink back like something stretched them, then let go, those ideas of rolled together and dissolved hit different. Stuff you once heard in church now seems to be showing up right there against the Texas sky. Austin is used to weather that flips in a hurry, but not used to a cut, just hanging there like a line between two different worlds. You can call it meteorology if you want, but are you really sure you just saw something normal? When a pitch-black gap shows up in a blue sky and holds its shape like a crack in reality itself, the question isn't simple anymore. If it's just torn clouds, it's way beyond anything we've seen before. But if it's a real crack, then it didn't just tear the sky over Austin. It tore open the sense of safety for a whole generation. And if that crack opens up a few more feet, will the sky above us still hold together? 5. Strange whirlwind in the sky. Right near the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva, a huge cloud suddenly twisted into a deep, dark circle, like a hole opening up in the middle of the sky, swallowing light right into its center. A small beam of light shot straight up super fast, then disappeared into the core of the swirl, leaving behind a slow-turning dark patch that felt really eerie. When you see something like that, do you ever wonder if the sky is moving on its own, or if something invisible is being triggered? That swirling mass spread out over several miles, with the cloud edges rolling and stretching like they were being pulled by an unseen force, then twisting tight. The center was much darker than the rest of the sky, giving a feeling of endless depth, almost like a tiny black hole. A lot of folks thought of the Norwegian spiral that showed up back in 2009, but this time the spot was right next to CERN's high-energy experiments, where particles smashed together at energies never reached before. Joel 2:30 says, "And I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and pillars of smoke." When the swirling clouds formed a round pillar and light shot up, then vanished into the dark core, that Bible verse rings like a key to understanding it. Those wonders in the heavens don't seem like just figures of speech anymore. They look like they're actually appearing in our modern world, full of giant accelerators and huge magnetic fields. Some people say it was just a natural cloud vortex caused by temperature differences and high-altitude winds. But the timing and location make many wonder. Why did this show up so close to one of the most powerful machines on Earth? Videos from tourists show the light shooting straight up vertically and vanishing exactly into the center of the swirl, not a drone effect or flare. The sight lasted long enough to leave a real impression, not just a quick flash. Nahum 1-3 reads, "The Lord is slow to anger and great in power. He will not leave the guilty unpunished. The Lord walks in the whirlwind and the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet." Reading that next to this raging cloud swirl, you realize clouds aren't just floating water vapor. In the Bible, clouds are tied to God's power and his supernatural presence. So that vortex over Geneva's sky isn't simply weather. It becomes something worth thinking about deeply. In a century of machines and subatomic particles, people believe we can unlock the universe's secrets. But if there are doors beyond our calculations, what we're seeing might be a reminder that the visible world is only a tiny piece of reality. That cloud swirl may have lasted just a few minutes, but its meaning goes much deeper. If that vortex is an invisible gap opened by human ambition itself, what's waiting on the other side? And if it keeps growing wider, are we really ready to face whatever might step out from that darkness? 6. The locust plague explosion. Huge swarms of locusts rise up, sweeping through Madagascar and many parts of Africa and the Middle East like a living tide, leaving behind fields so bare it sends chills down your spine. In just a few days, thousands of acres of crops vanish, and the ground cracks open like it's been through a long drought. When you see those clouds of insects blocking out the sun, you really understand what it feels like to be covered by a moving darkness. In Madagascar, nearly half the island got hit as the swarms multiplied like crazy thanks to wild weather patterns. In South Africa, farmers watched their corn and wheat fields get wiped clean in just a few hours. Every last bit of green swallowed up. Fields that used to shine golden are now just gray dirt, as if life itself was quietly drained away. Joel 1-4 says, "What the locust swarm has left the great locusts have eaten. What the great locusts have left the young locusts have eaten. What the young locusts have left, other locusts have eaten." Those words sound like an ancient charge sheet, listing one wave of destruction after another. When you see fields stripped clean in wave after wave, you see that same pattern repeating with a scary kind of precision, as if history is playing out again on dry, cracked land. Scientists explain that climate change, out-of-season rains, and strong winds created perfect conditions for massive egg hatching. That's true on a biological level, but the way it lines up with those old prophecies makes a lot of people stop and think harder. The swarms fly so thick that weather radar picks them up as moving clouds, covering tens of miles every day. Revelation 9:3 says, "And out of the smoke, locusts came down on the earth and were given power like that of scorpions of the earth." The picture of locusts, tied to power and judgment, adds another layer of meaning to what's happening. Now, when tiny insects can bring an entire farming system to its knees, people are forced to face their own limits. This isn't just a story about ruined harvests. It's a serious wake-up call about how fragile the world's food supply really is. From East Africa to the Middle East, from Bahrain to Russia, these outbreaks keep coming one after another, forming a chain of warnings that stretched over years. If this spreading keeps going, feeding people could become a bigger challenge than any economic crisis. The stripped fields we see today might be just the start of something much larger. As the locusts keep breeding and winds carry them across borders, is the world moving closer to a global famine like the one that was once foretold? 7. A sudden solar eclipse appeared in the middle of the day, looking like an eye in the sky. In Hopkinsville, Kentucky, the sun just went out at noon, turning the sky into thick darkness in only a few minutes. The crowd watching the total eclipse froze as the light changed so fast it felt like someone pulled a giant curtain over the whole town. That moment wasn't just an astronomy thing, it hit right at people's usual sense of safety. Everything went pitch black, the temperature dropped, and stars showed up in a daytime sky. A cold silver ring of light appeared around the black circle, bending in a strange way, like a round gate opening and then closing. Within a few miles, the insects and birds got almost completely quiet, and the whole place sank into a silence that's hard to describe. Joel 2:31 says, "The sun will be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes." Those words felt like a warning hanging right there in the Kentucky sky. As the daylight pulled back and gave way to darkness, a lot of folks started seeing this event as more than just science. Some say it's just a natural cycle, like the eclipse back in 2017 that crossed the US. But a number of witnesses said the shape of the dark ring didn't quite match the usual picture of the moon covering the sun. Videos catching that black disk hanging there sparked a lot of debate and questions about what people really saw with their own eyes. Matthew 24-29 says, "Immediately after those days of trouble, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken." Reading that again while thinking about the Kentucky sky going dark gives it a deeper feel. Eclipses are normal in astronomy, but the way it lines up with those old descriptions makes many people think hard about the timing and what it might really mean. Hopkinsville was already known from strange stories going back decades, and now it's in the spotlight again because the sun vanished at midday. The event only lasted a few minutes, but the feeling it left behind has stuck around much longer. The darkness moved away, the light came back, but the question about what that moment truly means is still up there in the sky. If the next eclipses keep bringing that same uneasy feeling, are we watching a series of signs one after another? And if one day the darkness lasts longer than just those few short minutes, how would the world get ready for what's coming? 8. A terrifying sight. A huge swarm of black insects completely blocking out the sun. On the Mutha River in Pune, a column of insects stood straight up, swirling like a giant funnel, then swept across the water, turning the sky into thick, inky darkness. In just a few minutes, the whole area was covered in shadow. You can imagine what it felt like, standing under a living tornado, spinning right in front of you. Thousands, maybe even millions, of tiny creatures formed a twisting pillar hundreds of feet tall. The funnel shape widened and then tightened, with each warm updraft rising from the polluted, organic-rich river. That dark mass rolled along the riverbank, creeping a few miles, constantly changing shape like it had its own heartbeat. Viral videos show the water completely covered, and the late afternoon light swallowed up in a heavy gray. Exodus 10:14 says, "The locusts went up over all the land of Egypt, and settled in every area of Egypt in great numbers. Never before had there been such a plague of locusts, nor will there ever be again." That ancient image suddenly comes alive as the swarm in Pune forms a swirling army, blotting out the sky like a warning being replayed in modern times. Scientists explain this as similar to a mosquito tornado, which happens when warm winds and plenty of food cause insects to gather. That makes sense, but the size and density this time went way beyond anything local people had ever seen. The funnel held its shape for a long time, then suddenly broke apart, as if it had finished some invisible cycle. Joel 2:25 says, "I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten, the great locust and the young locust, the other locusts and the locust swarm, my great army that I sent among you." When you read those words next to what happened on the Mutha River, the insects stop being just an environmental side effect. They feel more like a direct indictment of how people have abused nature. Pollution builds up, the climate changes, and then a tiny army rises up right in the middle of a crowded city. The black swirling mass didn't last forever, but the shock of it still lingers in the minds of those who saw it. It shows how fragile our normal world really is. One small thing can come together and overwhelm everything. If this keeps happening in other places, with thicker swarms and bigger areas, will the skies over many cities get darkened by these living funnels? And as that army grows, will the world still have time to prepare for what's quietly taking shape? 9. The sky let out a mysterious rumble. In Salvador, Brazil, the sky suddenly shook with a deep, long roar like a brass horn blowing through thick air. The sound waves hit the house walls, made the window glass vibrate gently, and you can imagine standing in the city with that huge noise coming from right above, like a giant machine just starting up. The loud rumble lasted several minutes, low and heavy at first, then suddenly rising higher, spreading a few miles before fading into nothing. Some radios picked up brief static right at that moment, which made the whole thing even harder to explain. In New Jersey and other places around the world, similar skyquakes have been reported too, much like the mysterious Barisal guns heard in Bengal decades ago. Revelation 8:5 says, "The angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and hurled it to the earth. And there came peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake." When you put that Bible verse next to the shaking sounds in Salvador, it's not just a physical noise you hear. You feel a warning message echoing in our modern time. The sound has no shape, but it carries a weight that makes your heart feel heavy. Researchers call this a rare atmospheric event caused by pressure changes or distant shock waves. Still, in many cases, the exact source stays unclear. And the fact that so many countries have heard similar sounds in recent years stirs up a lot of curiosity. The rumble doesn't sound like regular thunder, and it doesn't come with an obvious storm. It just appears and then fades away like a quick reminder. 1 Thessalonians 4:16 says, "For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God." Those words make many people stop and think when they hear strange sounds from the sky, as if a distant trumpet is starting to sound across the world. Throughout the history of faith, the trumpet has always been tied to announcements and to moments of great change. The sound in Salvador eventually died away, but the memory of it still lingers in a lot of people's minds. It leaves you wondering what's really happening up there in the atmosphere that we don't fully understand yet. If these rumbles start coming more often, stronger, and farther apart, is it just a rare atmospheric thing? Or is it a series of trumpet calls, slowly finishing a song that was written long ago? 10. Bright object hanging in the sky. In the middle of the holy night sky, a bright shape hung right above Masjid an-Nabawi, leaving thousands of eyes frozen. No sound, no trail of smoke, just a steady glow standing still, like it was watching. If you were standing in the square that night, would you really believe it was just a random coincidence? The light didn't streak away like a shooting star. It stayed completely still for several minutes, high above the green dome, a few miles from the people watching, but clear enough for everyone to see with the naked eye. Some folks said they felt an invisible presence, as if something was quietly checking out humanity from up there. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great signs from heaven and great earthquakes, famines and pestilences in many places." When those words come back to mind, along with the memory of that glow over Medina, it stops being just some strange light. It turns into a sign that makes people stop and think hard. Before that, in Hale and a few other cities in Saudi Arabia, similar orbs had shown up, hovering, then disappearing without a trace. Videos from different angles show the object holding steady, no flashing like a drone, no moving along an airplane path. Then suddenly, it flared up brighter and burst into a short flash before melting into the darkness. Acts 2:19 says, "And I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood, fire, and columns of smoke." The picture of that light exploding over the holy sky makes a lot of people think of those words. Fire up high, a sign in the air, like a warning hanging right in front of the whole world. Some people say it was just a drone or a meteor. But what drone can hover that high for minutes without making any noise? What meteor hangs still before it explodes? The videos from miles away confirm the object kept its position steady before it lit up intensely. The mystery doesn't make it weaker. It actually makes the questions feel heavier. Luke 21:11 reminds us again, there will be great signs from heaven. That Bible verse isn't an empty threat. It's more like a judgment announced before it happens. When signs show up at the most sacred place, the message doesn't seem limited to one country or one people anymore. The object vanished. The sky over Medina went quiet again, but the feeling of being watched stayed in a lot of hearts. If that light comes back, if it doesn't just hover but brings a clearer sign, could that be the final message before everything gets settled? 10 strange signs have passed right in front of us, from the sky over Texas glowing bright to that ring of light hovering above Medina. Strange sounds in the air, clouds shaped in ways that don't make sense, objects just hanging still and then exploding. All of these aren't just random events anymore. They're coming together into one big picture, a scene that feels like the end of the age, making people stop and wonder what's really going on up there above our heads. Matthew 24:7-8 says, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." All these are the beginning of birth pains. When you look at what's happening around the world right now, those words don't feel far away anymore. They sound like a warning that was given a long time ago, but only now, when the signs are coming fast and strong, do people suddenly realize we're living right in the middle of them. Revelation 6:12-1-3 says, "The sun turned black like sackcloth, the moon turned blood red, and the stars in the sky fell to the earth." The changing sky, strange lights appearing and disappearing, these make a lot of folks think of exactly what this passage describes. What we're seeing may not be the full thing yet, but it feels like loud warning bells ringing right before the door of the big moment opens. The question isn't whether these things are real anymore. Thousands of people have seen them with their own eyes and recorded them. The real question is whether people will listen or just keep ignoring it. The sky is still up there every night, opening wide above every home. And who knows, maybe the next sign won't show up in some far-off place, but right over the city where you live. Joel 2:33-1 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and billows of smoke. The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord." Those words aren't meant to scare us. They're meant to wake us up. When the signs show up, what matters isn't arguing about them. It's getting our hearts ready. If what you just watched got you thinking, leave a short prayer in the comments below, or just share your honest thoughts. Your words might encourage someone else who's searching for answers. And if you feel these messages need to reach more people, please give a like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any of the reminders in this special time. Thank you for staying with me to the end. May the Lord keep you and your family in peace, protect every step you take, and give your heart strength through all the shaking. Amen. Have you ever looked up at the sky and wondered what's really going on? In just a short time, a whole bunch of strange things have been happening, one after another, popping up fast, exploding, crashing, streaking across the sky, and lighting up between continents. It's hard for a lot of people to just ignore it. Is this all just coincidence? Or are these signs we've been warned about, pointing to the end times and the return of Jesus? Two tornadoes forming at the same time and then merging together, red clouds burning high up, a green object shooting across the night sky, lights hovering next to the statue of Jesus, a wing shape clearly showing in the clouds, a dark thing flying close to the border, a glowing cross, perfect circles opening up in the clouds, a green star falling, and a UFO flashing lights out in the desert, all coming one right after the other like a series of warnings. What do you think this is? Let's keep watching each of these strange signs together. And if you believe the Lord is trying to get our attention today, leave a prayer in the comments. Amen. Now, so you don't have to wait long, let's get started right away with 1. A pair of strange dust devils form at the same time and twist into each other. Out in the dry, empty outback of New South Wales, two huge spinning columns of wind formed almost at the same moment, then rushed straight toward each other. They stood tall in the desert like two moving pillars. The footage from AccuWeather captures every detail, the tight spirals, the two only a few miles apart before they merged, and dust getting pulled hundreds of feet into the air in just seconds. This wasn't a single tornado. It was two dust devils spinning side by side, then suddenly changing direction and joining into one bigger, stronger column. They wrapped around each other like two opposing forces, digging deep into the cracked, dry ground and creating a spinning core that's hard to look away from. The person filming wasn't too far off, and you can feel something unusual just from the shaky frames. Weather experts say this happens when hot air rises off the desert floor and creates local spins from temperature differences. Dust devils aren't rare in Australia, especially on hot, dry days. But having two form so close together, move parallel, then combine into one solid unit like this isn't something we see recorded very often. Matthew 24:7 says, "For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." When nature starts showing these unusual movements, those words come to mind as a reminder of conflicts and changes spreading, not just among people, but even in the earth and sky itself. Revelation 6:12 reads, "I looked, and there was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair, and the whole moon became like blood." Even though this desert event wasn't an earthquake or total darkness, the sight of two spinning pillars coming together against a bright sky still makes many people think of bigger shifts quietly building up. Some analysts say that when hot air currents are strong enough and meet the right wind conditions, two dust devils can interact and merge. But most observations show dust devils usually stay separate, appear briefly, and disappear fast. The timing and paths lining up so perfectly this time raises questions that don't have clear answers yet. If nature starts changing in ways that are harder to predict, this could be an early sign of larger shifts ahead. And if this is just the beginning, what might be waiting out there in that wide-open sky? 2. Judgment fire appears in the sky. The sky suddenly lit up with tall red streaks like pillars of fire, stretching dozens of miles above big storms. It left a lot of folks frozen in the dark night. In Louisiana and over parts of Italy, bright red-orange bands flashed on and off in just a few seconds, leaving a heavy question. Is this a rare natural event or some kind of signal coming from way up high? The pictures show red tendrils shooting straight up to around 50 miles high, breaking away from the tops of thunderclouds and glowing like upside-down flames. Sometimes they looked like solid red blocks. Other times they turned red-orange, mixed with a little pale blue, then blinked out fast, like somebody flipped a giant switch on and off in the sky. When you look at those shots, it's really hard to think it's just regular lightning. According to science reports, these could be red sprites, electric discharges that happen high above strong thunderstorms. Wikipedia says they're brief flashes that show up in the upper atmosphere when the storm's electric charge gets really strong. Still, not every storm makes sprites, and it's even rarer for them to appear so thick, so clear, and get captured in so many places all at the same time like this. Revelation 8-5 says, "The angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there were peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake." When those red fire streaks burst above the storm clouds, it's hard not to think of fire being poured down amid thunder and lightning. This isn't just light, it feels like a sign of something happening. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great signs from heaven and great earthquakes, and in various places famines and pestilences. And there will be terrors and great signs from heaven." Those red pillars, dozens of miles tall, right over fierce storm areas, match up in a pretty striking way with great signs from heaven. When these things keep happening and spreading, they don't feel like random bits anymore. Some scientists point out that sprites have been seen for years. It's just better cameras now let us catch them clearly. But the question hangs there. Why are they showing up so much right now when the world feels so shaken? Why do the colors and shapes this time look so sharp and shocking? The timing makes it hard for people to just shrug it off. Fire up high doesn't just light the sky, it reminds us of a power that can shake everything. Those red fire columns feel like a warning that steps are being taken for a big cleansing, one sign after another, getting clearer as time goes on. If the fire in the sky has started flashing, what will that white streak we just caught speeding through the dark night show us next? 3. Mysterious white light, streaking fast across the night sky. A bright, white-green streak suddenly tore through the night sky, changing direction mid-air like it had a mind of its own. The man standing quietly by the window didn't even have time to catch his breath. That light didn't just fall straight down or fade out like a shooting star. It glided along, paused for a moment, then shot off in a different direction before disappearing behind the clouds. If you had seen that moment with your own eyes, what would you call it? It happened in Auckland, near the Lower Hutt area in New Zealand. From the window of a quiet home, the witness caught a glowing object, giving off brilliant green light. It moved slower than a regular meteor, but still fast enough to feel otherworldly. It didn't leave a long, boring, fiery trail. Instead, it pulsed with light like it was breathing, then suddenly curved into an arc before racing upward and vanishing into the clouds. Matthew 24-27 says, "For